All right. What we're going to do is we're going to go through this. We're going to talk a little bit about what ProCapture Backup is and some different things like that. Then we're going to go through a demo. So as we're going, we're going to take and you have to, I've got to do a little bit of screen switching around in here. So we need to make sure that if it sounds like I'm talking and you think you should be seeing something and you're not, or you're not seeing the right thing, let me know. What ProCapture Backup is, ProCapture Backup is a new product by Pro Studio Software. One of the things that Pro Studio Software is doing, we're trying to expand besides just Pro Select out there and be able to take and manage more workflow for professional photographers. And this is ProCapture Backup is something that's going to apply whether you're a portrait photographer, nature photographer, commercial photographer, videographer. We got a whole lot of different things that we can uh, do out there. First of all, what I want to do is I want to talk about, what is a secure backup process? And this is something that I've been teaching for a lot of years in the industry, is a way to be able to take and ensure that you've got your images adequately protected. So the way that I've always taught this and the way that ProCapture Backup is designed is to be able to we want to be able to create two separate sets of images as we're going. The first set of images is what we're going to do is a primary, what we call the working images. Those working images are going to they may reside on your local computer. They may reside on an external drive. They could reside on a RAID unit. These are the images that you would actually take and open up. You're going to do your retouch in Photoshop. Lightroom's going to link to them. Other things are going to happen. These are images that are actually going to get worked on. All right. Then we're also going to create a secondary backup, a copy of all the images want to come off the card to a destination that's on a physically separate hard drive. And that separate hard drive is going to be referred to as an archive drive. So it's a duplication of everything that's on the card. Now, the intention is that these images on the archive drive are never going to should never need to get used. You're never going to open anything. You're never going to open up these images. If something gets goofed up on your working drive and you need to go out and recover an image from your working drive, you would then copy it from the working location or from the archive location back in the working location. But again, that's just simply a backup. As these images are getting backed up from your card, we want to use the system to be able to verify that the images copied match the source. So we know that everything that was on the cards is actually getting verified. We want to be able to keep the files organized by job, by client, by date, or by session. There's various ways to do it, but the whole idea is that anybody should be able to walk in your operation and be able to find your images because you've got them organized in a simplified fashion that's easily understandable. We also want to take and we want to avoid manual drop and drag mistakes. It's so easy if you're just grabbing images off a card and you're popping them into a folder to be able to do things that are not going right, and you're not sure that it actually really happened. And you feel the obligation to set there and use it with ProCapture Backup. You can set your backups and then walk away and come back and you can see a summary it'll tell you that everything is done. The last thing we want to do is we want to take and make sure that all our everything is in place before the cards are actually deleted. I mean, I know one studio that I've worked with, they actually would go through and they keep all their cards, and that really isn't necessary, and it gets pretty expensive to do that. So ProCapture Backup it's a dedicated camera file offloading tool. It's pretty much it's a one-trick pony, but it's one of these things that you really don't know you need it until you start using it. And you go, oh my gosh, how did I live without this? We were just recently at a show, and people that were looking at it were like, wow, this is pretty amazing when they're actually seeing what it does. This really becomes the first step in your workflow. It focuses on from the moment you take the images out of the camera and gets everything to be able to take and set up your production as you move forward. This is built exclusively for photographers and videographers, and it replaces a manual setup with a structured process for you. Now, what ProCapture Backup is not a cloud backup service. It does not have any cloud backup. But what it will do is it'll take and offload these images And these images can go to areas that you can have linked to Google Drive or Dropbox or Synology Cloud or some of the other cloud systems that would take and back them up to the cloud. So you have that availability. ProCapture Backup is going to put them in the right place to be able to get them. But what's going to happen is that ProCapture Backup is going to back up to local drives, external drives, or network storage devices. It can go directly into a Dropbox file too that you would link when you've got your Dropbox app running on your local computer. Most file lists or most file loss problems don't happen because photographers not care. They happen because it's a manual process. It's repetitive and it's easy to get interrupted. I know how my day goes. I'm just constantly getting bombarded with lots of different things going on, and trying to stay focused on anything is sometimes difficult. So what happens is if you're manually doing this transfer, if you're thinking a card was copied and it was not, can cause a problem forgetting to make a second copy. This is a big one because a lot of people will offload their cards in one place thinking I'm going to go back later and make that second copy, and they never quite get back to doing it. Copies get filed to the wrong location. You've got inconsistent folder structures. Sometimes I've seen people, they're importing Lightroom before the files are actually organized. I've seen people actually go through and they'll add something to Lightroom and they'll actually have the files, they're only linked to their card, not in a actual location. And they pull out the card, reformat the card, thinking everything's backed up, and it's not there. ProCapture Backup helps prevent all that. ProCapture Backup uses what we call profiles to be able to create repeatable workflow. As I've taught in workflow over the years, my whole process has been to create repeatable processes that are easy to do, and that not only yourself can do, but your team, your staff can actually go through and do that and make it very simple. And so what happens with these profiles that are in ProCapture Backup, you can set up the way that you want your files organized, and they can be dependent on the type of job you're doing. So for example, you may have ones for portrait sessions, weddings, events, commercial, personal, video production, and you can take and have things differently. That I may have a different set of folder structures that I need built for commercial jobs than I may for a wedding or from a portrait session out there. And so ProCapture Backup is going to actually allow you to be able to go through and do that. What I want to do is that when you start ProCapture Backup, you can download it from the Pro Studio Software website, and then it's going to open up a wizard for you that helps you get started and helps you establish what you're going to do, how you want to take and get your files and different things organized out there. So what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and I've got to stop sharing this screen here. And we're going to go ahead and we are going to bring up ProCapture Backup here. Give me just a second.
While Ron's doing that, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. And if we have time at the end, or if it works into his talk, we'll go through those at this when we can.
Okay, this is the ProCapture Backup icon. Now, I've had ProCapture Backup loaded on my system, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch it with the Shift key this time. And that's kind of a little tip for here. And what it does is it's got some reset options on here. And so what I'm going to do is I want to take, because once you go into it and you've gone through the startup wizard, it won't show that again. I want to show that again so you can actually see that. I'm also going to go through here and tell it to reset all my data back to a default settings, so you can see exactly what it looks like when it comes out of the box with some of the different profiles that are loaded. All right, so this is the setup wizard that you get with ProCapture Backup. And so the wizard, it is holding my previous locations, but this is where we're going to select a working folder. Again, our working folder is the images that we're going to be going to. In this particular, now I have a RAID system. I have a RAID system that I use here in my office. But in this particular case, I'm going out to an external drive because I need some things to run a little bit faster than what we're doing on the RAID for the demos here. So what we can do is you can simply just select the folder. You're going to go out here, and in this case, I'm going out here, and I've got Studio Jobs. I created a master folder called Studio Jobs, and that's where I want all of my images to go into. You might call this digital camera files or whatever you want that top level folder to be. And all of your offloaded images are going to trickle down from there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click the next button, and we're going to set here, we're going to set an archive copy. Now you have an option to be able to say no if you don't want an archive copy. The archive copy is that second set of images, but I always advise that you want to do this. And so what I've got is I have another 4 terabyte external drive, and then it's got the image archive. So if I go out here again, I can go out here, and so here's my image archive, and I'm just going to select that, and that will create, that points it to my archive directory, and that's all set. Now, one thing that's nice, because I travel a lot and I'm doing a lot of demos in different places, I can actually, when I'm using these external drives as my primary, my working, I can take and have the same setup. I can plug these in, and this will work on my desktop machine in my office or in my laptop or whatever it is I'm traveling to. So it makes it very, very handy, so I can keep everything consistent that way. All right, next what we're going to do is we want to be sure that your raw file format is supported. So what we've done is we put in just about every raw file that we could locate out there. But if a new camera comes out, or something, and as new cameras come out, we will update the main list. But you can add whatever you need. If you have a different raw file, you just would simply type it in there, and then ProCapture Backup will recognize it. But it should, by default, all the major Sony, Canons, Fuji, all those should all be right there. So again, we're going to go ahead and click Next. Now, it's going to ask here how we want to do our file renaming. Now you can leave the file name. So this would be just the native, the way it comes off the camera. You can see here with the camera ID, and then the last 4 digits, which are the numeric numbering system. In this case, I want all of my images to include a job name, and then we're going to use a image number. Now that number in some cases may be the original image number, or it may be a renumbered file, dependent on the profile and how I want to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to select the job name, and I'm going to click Next. Now, these next few screens, what they are is they're just kind of being able to take and give you some tips on what the ProCapture backup screens look like. So if we look in here, you can see up here on the settings in here, this allows you to customize your profiles. This is where you're going to type in a job name. This is where you select a profile, a job number. If you have your system set to use a job number, in some cases you may have a studio management system that where it assigns a job number. So you could put the job number in there. Below is the area where it is your cards that ProCapture is going to actually be reading. When you're customizing your profiles, this kind of explains what you've got. And we'll go into a little bit more detail of this just a little bit later, but you have a category, and the category is associated at the top level here of where the images are going to go. So you can see under the digital camera files folder, in this example, it's got digital camera files where I assign studio jobs as my setup. Then underneath it, you can see it's got a year. We use dynamic fields in there. And so what that means is that it will take and actually read the data from the card and automatically generate the year based on that. So what happens if you're manually doing this thing, when it changed from 2025 to 2026, if you were putting images in by year, you had to manually go out and create that 26 directory, and go out there and do it. This will automatically do it. The that is actually going and that is deciding the month. So this is going to put into a folder by year and by month based on what the example is. And then the next thing down here is the job name, and that's set up by the job structure. The job structure is basically where how your images are organized within the job folder. Down below here, it's got what we call finalization, which are completion tasks. We can tell that if we want the images to automatically load into Lightroom when it's done, or it can actually go through, for those of you that are using ProSelect, it'll build a ProSelect album for you automatically. And what it can do is that ProSelect album, it will build a ProSelect album without ever opening up ProSelect. We put an engine in back behind it that will build a ProSelect album in the background. You don't have to see it, anything going on. It just happens, and it'll build the PSA file, and it will be ready to go. for you. It'll actually do that even off of raw files when you're going through and using the system. So that's something brand new. This is where in this screen, this explains how your images are going to come off there. So if you look here, this top one, you guys are seeing my cursor, correct, Lori? You can see that there, where he's taking a nap. You can see the different job types here where I have JPEGs, RAW files, video files, and audio files. And you can decide if these folders are going to get offloaded into subfolders or back into the root directory there. And then this is the screen where we select the files. It's pretty simple once you get going in here. And then next, then this is a review screen. It shows you exactly what's going to happen with the job. It tells you how your files are going to get reviewed and what's going to happen. So we're going to go ahead and just click next. All right, now it tells me that we're set up and ready to use ProCapture Backup. So we'll go ahead and click finish. Now, what we've got here is we've got, this is our import screen, the first thing that you're going to get to be able to start up here. So what I've got here is you can see I've got a card in here. This recognized an SD card that I have set into the system. These images, what I want to do is I'm going to go out here and we're going to create a job name. Now these images happen to be from a trip that I took over in Mongolia. So what I can do, Mongolia, and we're going to call this, we're just going to call this Mongolia test because that's what we're doing here. So that's going to be our job name. And so what happened, it's going to take in this job name, and depending on the profile that I have, it's going to take and carry that into the renaming of my images. So I would set this up as Mongolia day 1, Mongolia day 2, different things like that. You can do different options on however you want your jobs named. Now the profile here, these are preset profiles that we've already established within ProCapture Backup. And so in this case, what we're doing is I'm going to tell us to do it by camera files by date. A lot of people like to organize their files, camera files by date. So we're just going to go ahead and use that default. And we'll show you how to edit these later and be able to take and create your name or create your own. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and simply click select files. So now what you can do is you can see the screen is actually interrogating my SD cards, and it's going out and reading all the images. I just have one card that's sitting out there, and it's going through, and you can see it's actually gone through, and it's found about 664 different files that are out there. And so what we can do is this now takes and then shows all the images that we've got working here. Now over here on the bottom left, we can click show thumbnails, and this will take and this will show thumbnails along with this so we can get an idea. The thumbnails are really nice where you can take, so sometimes if you're maybe in a studio session and you shoot a job and then you offload it and you come back in and you put the card back in your camera and you shoot another job. Well, maybe you forgot to format your card. You don't want all of the previous jobs images offloaded again. So you've got your previews so you can go through here and you can see exactly what you want to be able to take and offload. So what I want to do is I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go ahead and just tell it to select all. And then I'm going to uncheck this, and that unchecked everything for me on this particular job. Now, if we look up here at the top, you can see these same icons that you'll see later in ProCapture Backup. That's images. Those are going to be JPEG images. These are raw files, video files, sound files, and then Time Weaver, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. So you can see here that as we look at this particular job here, you can see I've got raw files here and I have video files down here. What I want to do is I'm going to go through and we're just going to make a quick selection of images so you're not having to wait for a whole bunch of things to offload. So I'm just going to select a series of images here. I have these selected and then I can click that. As soon as I click that, that actually activates. That tells us what images are actually going to be able to take and get offloaded there. So just my selected images are the ones that's going to get offloaded there. And the next thing we're going to do, it's actually, if you look up here in the top right, you can see it's got the job date. So this is telling me that I shot these in October of 2024. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the review. Now, what this does is this shows us that what it's going to do here, and this is creating the output for us. So it's going to go into studio jobs. It's It's going to have the folder 2004. It's going to go into October. Now, that's part of my top level settings for the category. Now, down here is my all of my settings for my job structure. So you can see our folder here is Mongolian test. It's got JPEG. It's going to create folders in there because I've set this up in as a part of this profile for JPEG files, RAW files, retouched images, outsourced to retouch, social media image, and video files. Now, what's happening is in this particular case here, based on this initial profile, it's putting everything into the root directory. None of these files are going in there. And you can set this up different ways to do it. Now, I'll actually go through and I can show you how we can take and actually change that. But we can see here that this tells us what the offload. I've selected 5 RAW files, 3 video files, and there's actually 3 JPEGs. Now, those 3 JPEGs are actually, those are going to be video preview files that would associate with that. So now all I have to do is I'm going to simply go through and I'm just going to take backup. Now it gives me a screen here. It's asking me, will I be adding additional cards to this job? And I'm just going to tell it, no, I'm only just going to be working with this one. So now it's going through and it's starting the backup process. So it's sending these files out into both my working directory and my archive location. So you can see it's going on here. It's offloading all the files. Now it's going through and doing a validation on everything that was done. So it's verified against the card that those files are properly handled there. So if we look here, so now this is I had it's set in the part of the profile to actually open up this right up in Finder so we can see it. So you can see this went out to this external job. It's in Studio Jobs 2024, October, Mongolian test. And then here are all of my images that are offloaded. They are renumbered because this one we actually, in this particular profile, we told it we actually wanted to renumber the images is the way that it was set up by default. And again, we'll show you how to be able to take and change that. Now, if you look here, there is a backup log out here. And what this is text file. You want to leave this out there because this will actually allow you to be able to go back if you wanted to add to that job later. So maybe you might have a job that, say, if you're in a studio situation, you're doing a studio portraits, and then a week later, you're going to go back and do some outdoor portraits. You want to put them into the same job. You can actually do that. And this backup log will take and make sure that everything is formatted exactly the same. It uses all the same settings and gets everything into the right place for going through and doing that. All right. So any questions on what we've got right now, what you've seen so far?
You've got a couple questions.
Okay.
Carol, for the ProSelect users or for people who shoot RAW and JPEGs, do the RAWs and JPEGs still have to be in the same folder?
Okay. The question is yes, for right now. So, for example, if I was doing a workflow, I would put those JPEGs and RAWs into that root folder. That would do it. But what I will tell you is that in ProSelect 2026, ProSelect is going to allow you a separate directory structure that you can have your RAW files and JPEGs in a different folder, and ProSelect will be able to find them, and then you'll be able to put your retouch files in a different folder. So there will be a directory, a hierarchical structure that you'll be allowed to use to be able to separate the files in ProSelect 2026. So that is available there. All right, let's go back out here real quickly.
One more question.
Okay, go ahead.
Toby asked, does ProCapture indicate images previously imported similar to Lightroom's don't import duplicates?
It will allow you to import images in to different folders. So I guess the answer to that is no, because you can actually go through and you could put them in different places. So it does not catch traffic. I believe it flags it if you're trying to go back into the same job with it. It wouldn't put them into the same job. It would know that one because that's based on this backup log, knows exactly what it's doing. So it is catching at that particular level. If we go over here to the image, I'm going back to my, this is my image archive over here. And so you can see over here, we've got files in here. These are some various ones from one of my last demos that we've got here. Okay, here's our Mongolian test folder. And then so here's all the archive images that are going into this, again, going into an archive folder that's all adjusted by date. So those images are all in that, that backup folder. All right, let's go back here and let's go back into ProCapture Backup. It's telling me that the job is complete. Now I want to go through here and we're going to change just a couple things in this. So I want to go back into this job structure and let's go in this default job structure. This is the one that we're actually working with. And we're going to go through and we're actually going to edit this. So if we look at this screen, this is our primary job structure, and you can have multiple job structures. And so here you can see it's got my JPEG files, my RAW files, video and audio are all going into the same place. But if I want to take and send files into different folders, we can actually go through and do this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm now changing this, that the files are going into, that the JPEG files will go into that JPEG folder here. They go in the RAW. And again, you just set this up in your profile. That's the way it's going to be. Now in here, we've got a renaming tab. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it that I do not want it renumbered. So it will take and it will keep the original number. So you can see here what we've got down here, which shows file name preview. It's got like new job. This will be our job name and our image number. Okay, additional options. Now we also have what's called metadata templates in here. And these are pretty cool because what you can do is you can take and you can go in here and you can take and you can edit a metadata template. And so this will automatically put your business name in here based on your license. Your job title will come in from whatever you put for your job folder. You could put, set up all of your address information in here, put in your copyright status. I want to go in here and do my Option G to get my copyright symbol. So it would be copyright, in this case, 2024 here. And then I could go in here and type in, and I want to add my name in there too. That and that would take in all of those images. And you can go through here and set various settings into here that when you take and you can tell it to apply a metadata template as a part of that, and that will add all that as it comes in, and all that gets would get fed right into Lightroom and be embedded all as a part of your images. So again, we've changed our job structure there. So I'm going to go here and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to click save this. And now we can go back in here. And once again, we're going to go out here and do Mongolia test 2. And then we go out here. Here is our card. We go out here and select our files in here. And we're going to go select all, uncheck, and click, turn them on, click review. Okay, and so now you can see that the raw files are now going into that raw folder. I didn't select any video files or anything there that they would go into that. So you can see now that based on that job structure, we're now telling these files to go into these individual folders here. Now these folders, as a part of the job structure, you set up any folders that you want so that you're not having to build folders up all the time when you're going through and creating this. I could go ahead and click backup, but I'm not actually going to go through and do that. So we don't need to watch it back up again, but it would do the exact same thing. But now it's going to put those images in there based on a different job structure. The default profiles, you can work with those as a starting point to get you going. So what happens is when we're going through and you're on terms of what makes up a profile. Okay, so first of all, you're going to have a category, and that tells you where it's actually going to save. Then you've got the job structure. That's how your files are organized. That includes what files are actually, or what folders are actually to get built within that particular job structure. Then the last thing is the finalization, is the completion tasks. So those are the 3 different areas that are a part of each one of these profiles. So, for example, a category. A category may be based on a life cycle. So, for example, you could have a category that could be weddings, families, seniors. When I was in the studio all the time, I like to organize all my files. If I was doing family portraits, children's portraits, weddings, they would all go into a individual setup for that. So it'd make it easy to find the images for promotional type work. Okay, you can also set up your job categories based on job type. Maybe it's commercial, aerial, headshots, travel. Personal is something that's really important, is to be able to create a personal one so that whenever we all shoot a lot of personal photographs and want to be able to take and maybe move these in to be able to archive all of that. We don't have it yet, but you'll actually be able to take, and where we're going with this one is down the road, you'll actually be able to take and interrogate your iPhone and move images from an iPhone back into the same workflow. So that will be pretty cool, but that's coming down the road. And then date is another way that you can take and organize your files by there. So that's how the categories are going to get set up. Okay, your job structure, how the files are organized. Okay, this is going to talk about how they're going to organize within each job, subfolders and file placement. So what folder is going to get created and where the images are going to go within those folders. File naming takes place in the job structure, whether they're renaming or keeping the original file names, and then metadata, how that is actually getting added into the files. The next thing is finalization. So what happens next? Is it going to go into Lightroom? We're going to, or are we going to build a ProSelect album? So those are options that we can actually go through and add there. All right, what I'm going to do is we're going to go through and I want to show you a little bit on a profile of where we can go and how we can use a feature in here that's called Time Weaver, which is really, really cool. So what I've got to do is I need to stop the share for just a second, and I need to shuffle around a couple little things here to get some notes going. Bear with me. I'm getting my screens organized here. Are there any questions as we're going?
Just one from Carol. What is the workflow if you only shoot raw in regards to making the ProSelect job file?
You can take that if you're on, well, I didn't spell Mongolia very well in that last one, did I? It will, if you're going through and if you only shoot raw files, you can take and ProCapture Backup will actually internally make a set of JPEGs all based on your straight out of camera raw file settings and build the ProSelect album for you. So when you're using this, if you're shooting, it eliminates the need to shoot JPEG and RAW because ProCapture Backup can create it for you all automatically. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go up here. I'm going to click on Settings, and I'm going to click on Manage Job Structures. And in this case, this is our primary job structure. This is what we worked with before. So you can see these are all the folders that is created here. I'm going to use that as a foundation unit. So I'm going to click Duplicate here, and that creates a new job structure for me. And I'm going to go ahead and click Edit. And so now what we can do is we're going to call this one a wedding job structure. And I'm going to get rid of the _1. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is we are going to take and put files. I am actually going to take and have my files are going to go, let's go our files into the base level of here for my JPEGs and my RAWs. And then for our renaming, what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to our renaming, we're going to do the job name and the job number. And then we're going to go through and we can tell it to renumber the images. Now, what we can do is that we can take with this auto renumbering here, you can take and you can set it to use auto and it'll do the minimum of 4 characters, or you can specify it and it'll do 5 characters. If you want to start your numbers, if you don't want numbers to start like at 1, you can tell it to, I'm going to be able to take and start at 200. If it starts at 1, it's not going to be 1, it'll be 0001, so that everything is always in the correct setup. So you can see if I've got 1, you can see it's 4 digits that are there. If I change this to 200, you're going to see that's where it would actually start my renaming of my particular images. Okay, then my options in here. And so this is the new metadata that we added in here. All right, now in here, we can also take and on these folders that I'm going to say on these folders that in this case, I don't want to have, I'm going to get rid of a couple folders and I don't need this one here. Now, the reason I put the numbers in front of these when you're setting them up is so that they can appear in a particular order. But if I want to add any particular folder, what I can do is I can select it here and then I click the add and then I'm going to type, and put in a 07 whatever so another folder here. So this one then will just create another empty folder for me as a part of that profile. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to click save. This one shows now what our job structure is. And then I'm going to go ahead and click save here. All right, so now what we're going to do is in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to eject this particular card. You can set in your settings, you can tell it to automatically eject your cards when they're done with the processing of the cards here. So I'm unplugging this card and now I'm installing. I have a multi-card reader here. You want to make sure that you've got good card readers. I'm using a multi-card reader from Otherworld Computing. It's very fast. It's very good. And it's got my two particular cards that are in here. And this one is actually going to be a wedding. So we're going to go here and I'm going to put the job name in there. And we're going to go down here under our weddings. Now, what I want to do is on this weddings, I actually want to take and I want to change this to weddings here. But I actually need to take and I need to modify. I need to make a modification in this weddings folder. So right now it's linked to our primary job structure. I'm going to now change this to our wedding job structure. Okay, so now that one, you can see how this changed. See when I changed that from my primary, see how it changed what was happening over here. So I'm going to go into this one and I'm going to tell it in this case that I want to be able to take and I want to use the quick import for Lightroom. And we're going to go ahead and click save. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to select the file. So it's going to go out here and now it's going to interrogate all the files on this particular card, or the two cards. So we've got all of our images and I'm going to click show thumbnails on here so I can get a grasp on what we're looking at. Now, what we've got here is we've got images that are coming in these are coming in off of two different cameras that we've got going here. And what I've done here is I'm just going to take and I'm going to select all, uncheck these for right now. Take that back. We'll select from there. So if I look over here and I've got this particular image, you can see you get a larger preview over here on the left. So if I'm looking at an image like this, okay, and so I'm going down here and I obviously previewed these images beforehand so I could show you what I'll quickly show what I want to do here is we've got this particular image here. Now, if I'm going to scroll down here, and if I look down here, and if you look here, you can see that I've got a different, you can see the color balance is different, that these are, we were kind of shooting a little bit of behind the scenes type of stuff. And so I know that if I come down here a little bit further, okay, you can see here now I've got some images that were shot at about that same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hold my command key right here, and then I'm going to take and click this. So now I've got that one selected, and I've got this other image up here selected. I'm going to click this Time Weaver button, and that adds what's called a Time Weaver icon that's showing in here. So now what happens when I click to my Time Weaver tab here on the right, this shows you that one camera was set at 144, the other camera was set at about 245. And what I want to do is I want to take and I want to equalize this. Now, if I'm going to assume that this particular camera was the camera from the Lexar. One was correct. What I need to do is all I need to do is take, and I can move that image right up in there. And when I zoom in here, as I zoom in closer and closer, you can take and you'll start to see, you can pull it in here. I can make this one go slightly after there or align it just to there. If I zoom in, I zoom in even tighter. There you go. You can even see, you can break it down. You can see I'm at, how tight it is to the seconds there. So you can move this around. Now, what's going to happen here is this one is actually going to take, and it's going to take and um, locate everything on this Lexar card to match up with the one on the Lexar one. So now if I click back here and go back into my file list, if we go down here and we look into this area here, you can see now, look at this. See, you can see how my images are now merged. You can tell by the difference in the color balance on these particular images. See, you can see here that this image was way up. This image is way up at the top. And now this image is now linked. So now I've synced up these cards so you can make the adjustments. So even though I just select, you can bring up a whole card and do it, but it gets kind of wild to load that many images. So it works really well just to be able to take and select a single image that you know that you want to match to. And then now it will go through and it will adjust that. So what I want to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to go through and I'm just going to take and I'm just going to select all, because again, I'm not going to offload all of these images. So select, I'm going to select them all, turn that off. And then I'm just going to make a selection of images here that we're actually going to go through and we're going to offload and turn these on. And so now I'm going to go into my review screen. And so what this is going to do is this is telling me that this is giving me a summary of my jobs. You can see these are the folders that get created. These raw files are actually going to go into the root directory of this particular folder. It tells me it's going to preview. It's going to renumber the files. They'll get renumbered starting at the 200. And then the files will all get merged. Timestamps will be adjusted on these. My archive drive is enabled, and it's going to do a quick import into Lightroom, and it's using this new metadata template. So now when I go through and tell it to back up, I'm going to tell it this is a complete job. And so now it's going through and it's processing all those files, going through and doing the actual validation. So you can see now that we've got this, we put it in Studio Jobs, that it's got Studio Jobs 2024 weddings, and then our created the job for Cassidy. And this one has all of our images. And now our images, you can see they're all renumbered in here, and everything is readjusted on the order. Now here it is, it automatically added into Lightroom. It'll open up your last catalog that has been opened in there. So I usually use a single catalog and keep adding things to it. What it does, it comes back in. You can do an automatic import into Lightroom, or you can do the quick import in Lightroom. The quick import is going to bring up this screen. Then all you have to do is simply just click that import tab, and then boom, they're done. Everything is in the Lightroom. So at this point, in what we did now is we went through and we've offloaded images from two different cards. We've written them into two different locations. We've applied our metadata. If we go back here and if we look here, you can see I've got in here copyright 2024 Pro Studio Software Incorporated, Ron Nichols, all of our creation information, all of that is automatically loaded all back into these particular images. If I would have had selected it to build a ProSelect album, it would have gone through and made a set of JPEGs and build a whole ProSelect album for me all right back in the background. So pretty cool in terms of what it will do. All right, we are going to flip here again and go back.
Ron, you had a question from Toby. He said, I think you mentioned this, but I use year, month, folder, job. And on the 1st of October, I import, it creates the folder. Where I import again several days later, it uses the same folder.
If they're from October, it will go into the October folder. if you have to make sure that your folder is set up as a that it's set up as a dynamic folder, that you're not typing October in there, you're telling it the month from the fields in there. All right, let me just run through the rest of this, then we can answer some more questions. So anyway, so ProCapture Backup, you can get it at Pro Studio Software. Just go to the downloads folder, you can download it. We've got it set up right now so that everybody's got a free trial to July 1st. So you can go out there, use it. It's fully functional. There's no restrictions on the way it gets used. Help and support. There's a built-in reference guide. So if you go to the help manual, you go to help in ProSite, go to online reference guide, and it'll take you out to the online reference guide. I can't show you because I'm back in this keynote screen, but that one's all AI powered, where you can actually type in questions and it will search it. The reference manual is really good. If you have questions, you can go out to the Pro Studio Software support, submit a ticket to the technical department out there, but be sure you can choose either Pro Select or ProCapture Backup. So be sure you do it. We've also I've started a ProCapture Backup user group. Just search for it on Facebook, just type in ProCapture Backup and ask to join that. And we can answer questions and have discussions out there about it. I want to keep that. If there's technical problems, we want to go through support. But if we got how-to and ideas for the software, we can talk about it on the Facebook page. Just some key takeaways. It just makes everything very simple. I'm not going to go through all those details out there for you. To give you an idea on the pricing on it, the standard subscription pricing is $12 monthly. If you're doing it on a monthly subscription, if you prepay for 6 months, it's 10% off. So it's $64.80 for 6 months, or that takes it down to $10.80 a month. Or you can do an annual, which has got a 15% discount on that one. If you have a Pro Select license, Pro Select subscribers automatically get 25% off on their subscription. So it goes down to $9 on a monthly subscription. If you're doing it monthly, or you're getting higher discounts, again, the 25, you're getting the 15 and the 25 or whatever it works out to, but you can see it goes down considerably out there for you. So what it works out to, standard subscription, $12 a month. If you got Pro Select, you can see it's less out there. So we're just bundling to be able to give you some savings out there. If we go here, you can click on the help button. You guys are seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you got the help here, and go to the online help guide. So this is the help guide there, but it's got all the different categories, explains everything out there pretty well. So it should give you some different ideas over there. If you go in here and you type a question in here, it'll get some summaries out here. Again, the AI is still getting trained. This is our probot. So if you don't exactly get the right answer out of it, take and ask it again, and then it'll always take and give you a link out here to the particular to the different areas, along with a summary of what it will do. One other cool thing that you can do with these profiles, you can go in there and you can actually export out a profile. So those of you that are teachers and instructors out there, that if you've got class students that you want to do it in a particular way, you can create a whole profile out there, and then export a profile, and it can be loaded into somebody else's machine. Anyway, thank you all for attending. I appreciate you taking the time today. For Pro Studio Software, I'm Ron Nichols.